Adrienne, would you describe yourself as a sports fan?
I would not describe myself as a sports fan. I have been in a stadium while sports was happening and acknowledged it with other people who were also in the stadium.
Cool. So if I were to ask you to name, let's say, 5 current WNBA players, could you do it?
No, of course not. And that's no reflection of them.
So, okay, what if I asked you to name 2 WNBA players?
Is Caitlin something in the WNBA yet?
Yes, she is. Caitlin something is in the WNBA.
Okay.
I, too, am not a sports fan of any sort. I don't follow sports or know anything about sports.
Is the last name of Caitlin Donovan?
Absolutely not. No.
Damn it!
No. You should have quit while you were ahead.
Damn it.
Yes, I too am not a sports person. And yet, tonight, the 2 of us are doing a sports episode. So buckle up. Hello and welcome to 2 Queens, 2 Crowns. I'm your host, KJ Miller, founder, lecturer, and content creator.
And I'm Adrienne Rose White, actor, writer, producer, teacher of how to actually sell a TV show organically, and one of the actors in the upcoming movie Night Bitch.
Heyo. And tonight, Adrienne, we are talking about the WNBA's newest draft picks, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Now, do those names ring any bells for you?
Yes! Caitlin does. She must have gotten married since she was Caitlin Donovan. That must be it.
No, again. I don't know who Caitlin Donovan is, but I can assure you she is not related to anyone we're talking about tonight.
I actually think, in retrospect, I think we went to college with a Caitlin Donovan. I think that's where I got that idea. I think I was in a play with her. I think she's married and her last name is no longer Donovan, but that's a different story.
Yes, that is a different and completely irrelevant story. So yes, we're talking about sports tonight. These are 2 basketball players, 2 phenoms. They were both in college as of literally earlier this year, and they have now both been drafted. So they are now both professional basketball players. And even though I am not a sports person, I was encouraged to do an episode about the 2 of them by my little sister, who, as you may or may not know, played basketball all through high school and still loves women's basketball. And she's been keeping up with the media narrative about the 2 of them. And I sort of kind of have. There's been a lot. And I finally was like, you know what? Despite knowing nothing about sports, I think we should try. I think we should give it our best.
I'm excited. I'm excited to stick my foot in my mouth in a whole second area that I know nothing about on top of pop culture. Why not put sports on top of pop culture? I'm in.
Why not? I do think maybe we give just a disclaimer at the top and say, look, we are here to talk about how the media narrative about the rivalry between these 2 women needs to be disrupted. Okay. So that's the lens we're bringing to this conversation. We're not bringing an athletic lens. Okay. We don't have that. So I just want to put that out there.
I love a restatement of purpose. I love a mission statement at the top of the episode. Now I'm really clear what I'm listening for, and y'all are clear what you're listening for. So let's dig in.
All right. So as always, let's dig into the history first, just to sort of set the stage, and then we'll get into the media narrative. Now, the first thing to know is that these are 2 very young women. They're both 22 years old. And they're both very talented basketball players. They've been playing since they were very, very, very young. And even though they lived and grew up in two different states, Angel is from Baltimore, Maryland. Caitlin Clark is from Des Moines, Iowa. They actually started playing each other in high school because they were both in AAU. Do you know what AAU is?
I do not, but I'm guessing it's like sort of a pre-WNBA, pre-college league that cultivates talent, is my guess.
Yes, you're very good at reading context clues. Yes, it it stands for Amateur Athletic Union. It's a nonprofit, volunteer-based organization that offers kids and teens a way to compete against the best athletes. And yes, I took that directly from their website. So they both played in AAU, so they had actually met up before in high school, but college is where we really started to get the media narrative of this rivalry. Basically because they were both doing so well, and also because they met up at the national championships in 2023, right? So that's where things really, really start to pop off. And Angel was at Louisiana State University. Caitlin was at the University of Iowa.
Got it. Okay. I'm actually, can I say, just super excited about this. I like the bits and pieces I know about this story are like a cousin was talking about Caitlin Clark at one point, and I think about Angel Reese too, actually. And I love seeing Caitlin on SNL, and I thought she held up against Michael Che really well. But so I feel like I've gotten bits and pieces, so I'm excited for like a deep dive. Like, let me understand what's going on.
So it's starting to come to you, because yes, Caitlin was on SNL, and I thought she did a good job too. Like, she wasn't necessarily funny, but like, you know, she was deadpan, and the deadpan worked for the bit.
The deadpan is very hard to pull off. Like, people don't realize. And she, I thought, nailed it. It is a lot to hold your own on SNL with all these crazy performers. And her lines were zingers, and the deadpan just really worked. Because usually he's the deadpan of him and Colin Jost. Yeah. So someone out deadpanning him, I really enjoyed.
Yeah. I completely agree. A lot of Michael Che stuff does not land for me. And so I agree. I thought the things she called him out for, like, very well done. Very well done. So good. I'm glad this is starting to ring some bells. Look at us. We know sports, at least when sports folks go to SNL. So
we're basically handing out trophies. We're basically the sports judges.
I mean, so, all right. So I'm going to hit you with a few quick college career highlights of both of these women, just to, you know, level set on how talented they are. I'm probably going to say some stats that I don't even understand, but Angel first. So first of all, she led LSU to its first national championship, which they won. This was the one that was against Caitlin's team. And at that championship, she was named Most Outstanding Player. She also set the NCAA single season record in double doubles. Do you know what double doubles are?
No, I do not.
I don't really either. Something about like you know what? Honestly, I looked it up before this, and I don't even care to try and recite it to you. Just know it has something to do with doing all the things well, like scoring, rebounding, assisting, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so she had a record in that. She also had the SEC single season record in rebounds, and as a senior, she was named SEC Player of the Year and an All-American. Okay, so those are just some of the accolades for Angel. Then for Caitlin, she's actually regarded as one of the greatest collegiate players of all time. She is the NCAA Division I all-time leading scorer and was a two-time National Player of the Year with the Hawkeyes. In her junior season, she was the National Player of the Year and led Iowa to its first national championship game, which, of course, was against Angel Reese. So those are just some of her stats. So, you know, I just say all that to level set. These women are very good at what they do.
Wow. The most scorer for NCAA of all time?
Of all time.
Wow.
Okay, so now that we kind of have an understanding of who these women are, this brings me to the rivalry. Now, as I mentioned, they were in a championship game last year, and Angel's team, LSU, won that game. Towards the end of the game, when it was clear Angel's team was going to win, she did a gesture towards Caitlin that apparently it's called the "you can't see me." It's when you flash your hand in front of your face. It was made popular by wrestler John Cena. Like you can't see me. Like, I'm moving so fast. Like, you're not on my level. You can't see what I'm doing out here. Apparently, okay? I'm not a sports person, but this is what I've read. Okay, so she did this gesture to Caitlin, and then shortly thereafter pointed at her ring to say, like, I'm going home with the championship ring, and you're not, basically. Okay? This set off a firestorm. The media went wild. Twitter went wild. Apparently, it started trending on Twitter that Angel Reese was classless. And, you know, every sports commentator, talking head, everybody was calling her everything but a child of God. Somebody named, a sports commentator named Keith Olbermann, I'm not familiar with him, but I guess he's pretty well known, tweeted calling her a fucking idiot.
Excuse me?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Other well-known commentators said things like she was a piece of shit.
What?
Yes. So it blew up. And this is really the moment where I think the rest of the world really dialed into this Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark dynamic, because there was just so much brouhaha over these gestures she made. But come to find out, Caitlin Clark had made that same John Cena gesture in that very same tournament against another team while she was winning. So Angel was just hitting her back with it. Like, oh, now who can't see who, right? Like, it was very much, you know, sports trash talk. Like,
it was trash talk within the realm of what was generally considered acceptable in the and the norm. Yeah,
exactly. And what's more, not only had Caitlin just done it literally earlier in the week at the same tournament, she had been praised by the media for it. Multiple outlets had said things like, "We love Caitlin's clapbacks. Here are Caitlin's top 10 clapbacks." John Cena, the originator of the move, you know, came out and publicly said how much he loved it. So when she had done the exact same thing, everybody ate it up. Everybody was like, we love it, we love it. Oh, look at her. Yeah, she's, you know, blah, blah, blah. But Angel Reese does it, and now she's a classless piece of shit.
Wow. Is anyone else comparing? Again, I'm new to this story. Have people talked about the different ways they were treated by the media for doing the same gesture?
100%.
Okay,
100%.
I'm just hoping we're not breaking this news. That's...
A year later? No, we are not. I love that you think we could have been, though. I love that you think highly enough of us.
Aren't you? Listen.
Are we breaking this news? No. No. Many people pointed out this very clear double standard and this very clear racism. And also a number of people came to Angel Reese's defense, including, like, you know, big name stars. LeBron James tweeted in her defense. Shaquille O'Neal tweeted in her defense. Like, so, you know, because you couldn't not, it would be silly to pretend as if there weren't very clear racial undertones to the media's reaction, given that literally these two women did the same exact gesture during the same tournament under the same circumstance, taunting the team they were beating. Okay. Both literally the exact same thing, and only one of them got shit for it. So, you know, very clear that there were some racial undertones. And, you know, What I would say, though, is that I think this sort of opened the broader worlds. I'm sure the basketball world already was a flutter, right, with chatter about these two and how, successful they are and talented they are and blah, 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 blah. But the broader world, I think, this is when they really woke up to the popularity of these women and also to the rivalry of these women.
Did either of them comment on the double standard like Angel or Caitlin themselves?
Yes, in fact, they did. And this is why it pushed me over the edge to do this episode, because what I think is so interesting about these two women, and, we'll touch on it a little bit later as well, is they have both consistently said they're not enemies, right? They've said we're competitors, and when we're on the court, we compete hard and we trash talk and everything else. That's the sport, but we're not enemies. In fact, they have congratulated each other on multiple occasions, and they have immense respect for one another, or so they say, right? And so I don't know why there'd be any reason to think that they don't, but they are fierce competitors. And so I think part of the reason I felt compelled to go ahead and do this episode was because I just feel like it's such a clear case of all of the kind of animosity that seems to exist being put on them from the outside, because these are just two very good players who love to compete, and everyone else seems to be putting these narratives on them.
Well, that's so interesting. I can't wait to hear more, because I do feel like the times when I do engage in sports, which is engage in watching sports, what I get caught up in is the stories. Like if I watch a Super Bowl a particular year, at like the lead up where they're like, this team is having a Cinderella story where blah, and then blah, blah, blah happened. And then like the storyteller, the narrative of it is the part of sports that I get excited about. So It's really interesting. I'm excited to dive further into this, because it seems like that narrative is undoubtedly gets more people to watch, but is maybe not is again undermining the truth of the situation.
Yeah. Well, that's so astute, because it is the storytelling of it all has really propelled both of these women and the NCAA, which is the college, division, and now the WNBA to new heights in terms of viewership. Literally, this year has been the most viewed year for the NCAA, tournaments that happen in the spring. And now the WNBA is having its most viewed season, literally because of these two women, right? So to your point around story, whether it's made up or not, people have decided these two are rivals. People have picked sides, and it is driving a lot of eyeballs. And interestingly enough, Angel Reese has even said, a lot of people want to make me the villain, and that's fine. I'll be that. If that means we get more eyeballs, if that means we get more people showing love for the sport, more people coming and, buying tickets, watching, I'm doing it for the game. Like, I love the game. I want all of it to be bigger. Right. And so if I have to be the villain in order for that to happen, okay. Which I just think is just such a boss thing to say. Like,
she's like, I'll be the heel. I mean, if she wants to be the heel and the villain and all that, like, by all means, if she's indifferent, I hope people keep giving her flowers, because it's very hard to do something at this level very well. Yeah. And I think it's especially not fair, like, as Black women or like women of color, like just getting put in the heel, like, oh, well, you're the bad one. You're the, like, I don't want that for the sport or for her on a personal level. But I do think that's a boss thing to say.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't want that for her, but I also, it's just admirable that she's sort of like, look, clearly the media is going to do what it's going to do, But if this is how we get more people, more butts and seats, and more eyeballs on our games, so be it. You know, like,
I do love that she's not worried about being palatable. She's like, let me just do what I do.
yeah.
The other thing that comes to mind with all of this is publicists. Like, in thinking about how the WNBA and women's basketball, like women's college basketball, how they've become more respected and like more people are paying attention. I'm also wondering, like, are more publicity dollars going in? Because someone makes these narratives, you know what I mean? Like, someone sits down and thinks of, okay, it's almost like a reality TV show where producers, like, it seems like it's just happening, but it's not. It's somewhat like a storyline is being put together. Yes, there's an organic part, but there's also a part that's like, I don't want to say manufactured, but like we'll say massage, orchestrated, like put together into a package that people can quickly understand. And that happens with sports too. Again, the talent is that like has to be there, but the narrative around that, like that's very, like the first thing when you brought up Caitlyn and Angel and how it started, where Caitlyn was getting praised for this behavior and then Angel was getting like a lot of shit for it. The first thing I thought of did Caitlyn have a publicist? Did Caitlyn have a publicist who from jump was on there being like, okay, let's take this and make sure this is the narrative about Caitlyn? And it made me wonder, what is the WNBA's? Because I'm sure they have poured more money into, again, having someone shape those narratives and give it to the sports commentators, so they just already have an idea of how to talk about what's happening. So I'm so curious, and I have no way of knowing what the answers are, but I'm very curious about who and how the narratives are getting put together, and like to what degree Caitlyn and Angel get to have a part in deciding those narratives and what part of it's out of their control. This is all just wondering, but I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. And I do think, I'm not sure about publicists and how publicists for the teams or for the individual girls. But what I do know is, like, reporters and editors are very much pushing narratives. And actually, as we start transitioning into their WNBA careers, what's funny is this year, there was another lead up to the championship. So last year, Angel's team beat Caitlyn's team in the championship. This year, they again both made it to, I believe they call it the Elite Eight, right? So the final 8 teams before working their way to the championship. So they played each other as a part of the Elite Eight. This time, Caitlyn's team ended up beating Angel's team. But in the lead up to the championships, there was a journalist who referred to the LSU team, which is mostly black, as dirty debutantes. This was in the LA Times. Dirty debutantes.
What?
I mean, they ended up...
In reference to what?
Well, so he was drawing this whole... they ended up retracting it. I think he then, in the edited version, changed it to basketball villains. I mean, like, not necessarily that much better. But this editor in the LA Times, basically, this was in a game, LSU was about to go up against UCLA. And so he referred to the UCLA team as America's sweethearts and the LSU team as dirty debutantes. And so he was trying to essentially paint this picture of, like, here's this sweet, sunny apple pie team, and here's this dirty, ghetto, terrible team, right? And he called the LSU team divisive, where he said the other team was wholesome. I mean, just like, so yes, narratives were definitely being pushed, like, for sure. And I think a lot of it was because of clickbait, people, wanting more eyeballs. I'll be reading these. See, you always open the door for me. Now I'm going to go read these articles right after this episode is over. And then I'll be prepared 20 minutes later. Yeah. So that actually brings me, so the championship, Caitlyn's team actually ended up making it all the way to the championship again this year, but again, they lost. And then shortly thereafter, both of these women entered the WNBA draft. Indiana had the number 1 draft pick because they're the worst team in the league, apparently. That's what my little sister told me. I was like, why did they get number 1 draft pick? She explained it to me. Okay, so they had the number 1 draft pick. They chose Caitlin Clark. So she was the number 1 chosen player, okay, in the draft. Angel Reese ended up being chosen by or drafted by the Chicago Sky. They had the number 7 draft pick, and they chose her. So now they're both in the WNBA. In the narrative in the WNBA about these women is similar, but has shifted a bit in a way that is very interesting. So essentially the narrative in the NBA that seems to be developing is basically Caitlin Clark versus everybody.
That sounds stressful for her.
It sounds stressful, but also I don't think it's real. I think this is another narrative the media is pushing, because what's so interesting now, I've started listening to some sports commentators, some Black women sports commentators, okay? And when I listen to them, it seems very clear this Caitlin versus everybody narrative is not real. But basically what has happened is Caitlin has entered, the WNBA. The WNBA is extremely competitive. This is another thing that I've learned. There are way fewer WNBA teams than NBA teams, which therefore means it's just like so much more selective if you're a woman basketball player, right? Because there's just way fewer teams. So it's top tier talent. And these girls play rough, okay? From the clips I have seen and from the commentary I have read, these girls play rough. Now, what has happened is Caitlin Clark has come onto the scene and she's gotten jostled. She's gotten pushed and prodded in every which way. Basically every game she's taken an elbow, she's taken a knee, she's taken a foot to the chest. She's really she's getting beat up a bit. But the thing is, and this is why the Caitlin versus everybody narrative has taken off, because you have all these commentators and all these fans basically saying like, you need to protect Caitlin Clark at all costs. She's the reason people are watching. If she gets injured, you're going to lose all of your viewers. Refs aren't doing their job, blah, blah, blah. And basically when I read these commentators, these women commentators, and watch what they have to say, they're like, no, she is not special. This is how it goes down in the WNBA. Like, reality check. This is how it goes down in the WNBA. And so it's very interesting because it feels like there is this, I think you could call it very American need to coddle this white woman, when Caitlin even says, I don't need to be coddled, right? Like, I'm here to play the game. The game is the game. People play rough. Like, we're competitors. She's not asking to be coddled by anybody. But again, the media is pushing this idea that like, oh, protect Caitlin at all costs. Oh, it's Caitlin versus everybody, and it's just like, no, this is just what it looks like to play basketball with the best of the best basketball players.
That was it's funny, you dug right into my thought, which was, but this is just what it is, right? Like, and she's good with that. Like, she knew it sounds like probably had a really good idea of what she was getting into when she chose this as her career and life path, and is down for it. That's the thing, where people are like, oh, she's getting attacked, and the thought is, no, this is what this is like. This is just the first time everyone's paying attention. And like, exactly. If it's time for the game to change, okay, like if there's a way to make the game, I don't follow basketball. If there's a way to make the basketball less violent, I do lean towards that as a personal leaning. I appreciate that Caitlin's like, I got this.
Well, and the Angel Reese of it all is, they, in their matchup, so they have played one game so far. Indiana, which is Caitlin's team, ended up winning by 1 point against Chicago Sky. And in that game, one of the players on the Chicago team, one of Angel's teammates, hard fouled her. Now, there's a technical name for this, but basically I saw the clip, and basically she just like ran up on old girl real hard and pushed her very hard and made her fall to the floor. Okay. Whatever it's called, it looked very aggressive, and, and there was no reason for it. The ball wasn't even in play at that point. And so, obviously, Indiana was upset about it. And afterwards, Angel hugs the girl who made the play. So, of course, the narrative then becomes again, Angel is so classless and so terrible. And, she's gunning for Caitlin, and her whole team is trying to harm her. So, again, there's just this narrative that is being placed on the two of them that neither of them seems to be all that interested in participating in. From Caitlin's perspective, she's like, y'all are trying to coddle me, but I signed up to play this game. This is the game I love. I want to do it. Angel's like, y'all keep trying to make me the villain, but in reality, all I care about is playing this game and more people watching the game that I love. So both of these women are just trying to do what they are trying to do. And it's like the media can't let it be,
Yeah. I mean, it almost seems like the media wants to put together a version that will get the most eyeballs. And I don't know, it is the media. And then it's also people responding so positively to it, I think, is the other part of it. People like leaning into that as opposed to leaning into, like, as soon as you told me how accomplished they both were, I was like, oh, I want to know what happens with this rivalry, like in this professional rivalry. This is, in a way, I think more interesting than the trying to make these larger cultural statements and trying to make it so personal. It feels, fake and arbitrary and manipulative.
Yeah. All right. So with that said, I want to move on to Queens helping Queens. And I don't think I'm going to be saying anything controversial here. Hopefully. I mean, you never know. Somehow these things often turn controversial, but I don't think they will. So number one, it's very clear that these women have done so much to elevate women's basketball. I mean, when I tell you it was not on my radar in any way, and now I consistently am fed highlights from these two, quotes from these two, media moments from these two. They're on SNL. I don't know when the last time was a women's college basketball player was invited to do Weekend Update on SNL. I mean, they have both elevated this sport so much. And even though, yes, it's come at the cost of that has been the media painting this quote unquote rivalry, and, some racist undertones therein, that story, to your point, has captivated audiences all over the country. I mean, potentially even the world. And I just think they've done so much to get other people interested in this sport, and that only helps the sport. That only helps other women athletes. And so I think they've both helped one another in that endeavor.
I would agree with that. Like, that's an easy yes. Agree.
Yes, amazing. And then the other thing I will say is I think they probably have both made each other better players. Now, I don't do sports, okay? We've established that. So I don't know exactly how it works, but I would imagine the way you get better as a player is by playing other good players. And they're both clearly so good at what they do and have been matched up and on the court many, many times. And I'm guessing they have both gotten better as a result. So I think probably they would say that if they haven't already said it. They have praised each other in the media before. So that's the other thing I would say in terms of how they've helped one another. That
they've elevated, they've made each other better players. I think that makes perfect sense to me. And from what I understand, it's like sharpening. Actually, I've never sharpened a knife before either, so I don't know. But it seems like if you use a sharp knife to sharpen another sharp knife, if that's a thing, that seems to be what's happening.
You heard it here, folks. We know nothing about sports or knives. However,
that's how you sharpen knives, right? You get another sharp knife.
it's gotta be. That's gotta be. It has to work. Yes, exactly. They have sharpened each other's skills, and I think there's probably acknowledgement on both of their parts that like this rivalry, however, made up it is, has helped them both. Mm-hmm. And so I hope they feel that way. I hope they feel like they're laughing all the way to the bank. All right, before we take off, should we do our favorite comment of the week?
Well, I have a favorite comment for sure that I want to shout out. It's from Liz1397, and she dropped it on the Apple Podcast reviews for the whole cast. She wrote, subject line, perfect, no notes, 5 stars. We shout out a 5-star.
Hey.
She wrote, I love this podcast so much. It's a great mix of tackling pop culture, patriarchy, media, history, while also feeling like you're hanging out with friends. Their dynamic makes me want to hang out with a glass of wine with them. They're both, girl, let us know. Listen, I'll be drinking the non-alcoholic wine, but I will be there with bells on. Mm-hmm. They are both not only incredibly smart and accomplished women, but they genuinely seem kind and have a great sense of humor. Aww. I found on TikTok, and I'm so glad she mentioned this podcast and in a recent reintroduction video. This type of podcast is exactly what we need as women and want, exactly what we as women want and need. She wrote the sentence right. I fucked it up, but shout out Liz.
Yes, Liz. We love you, Liz.
Yes, very much. How about you, KJ? Any favorite comments?
Well, I do just want to call out, I posted very trepidatiously, and I don't know if that's a word, but I posted from our last episode a clip when we were talking about Eminem and what he said about Megan Thee Stallion. And given that is what, started the hate train on my TikTok last week, I was very trepidatious. However, someone commented, the only reason I knew that was a diss was because you told me it was. I was not understanding before, so thank you for the context. And, I just like that we're here educating the people. So that was from a user named July. Thank you, July. And yeah, we're here to keep you informed.
I'm getting informed on this podcast, so join me as I learn.
All right, Adrienne. So what are your final thoughts this week?
My final thought and biggest takeaway, hire a publicist. Get control of that narrative and decide it's the narrative that you want. That's mine.
Hey, I love that. Yes. Be in control of the narrative. I think that's a great takeaway. You know what? My final thought is I really want to watch a WNBA game. I think I really want to do that. I've never really done it before. So I think I'm going to text my sister, find out when they play again, Caitlin and Angel, because at this point, that's what I know. Okay, I know there are lots of great players and lots of great games, but I'm going to go with what I know. I'm going to find out when they play again, and I'm going to watch. That's going to be my little commitment, because I am excited that they're starting to get more love, more eyeballs, and I would love to be a part of that.
That's it for this week, everyone. Be sure to follow us on TikTok at 2 Queens, 2 Crowns, and check out the podcast on YouTube, 2 Queens, 2 Crowns. That's with the number 2, boo.
And Adrienne and I would love for you to follow us on our personal socials. I'm on TikTok at @IM_KJ Miller, and YouTube, I am KJ Miller. And Adrienne is on Instagram at Adrienne Rose White, and TikTok at wrong_or_right. We'll see you next week.